Today we've got a whole new breed of cat. This is the Mossberg SA-20 20-gauge defensive shotgun. It's a blast. Thanks for joining us today on Shooter the Series. My name's Ed Thorell from Firearms Education and Training. We'd like to thank all of our subscribers who've really given us a lot of great traction in the past few months. Do us a big favor, like, share, and subscribe. If you want to get immediate notifications, ring that bell. You'll be glad you did. Now, today we're going to be talking about the Mossberg SA-20 defensive shotgun, but just like we always do, we want to show empty and clear. We're all good to go. Have a nice, safe conversation. Ain't no big thing. Now, this is a 20-gauge defensive shotgun, which is a departure because the standard for years has been the 12-gauge. And if you talk to a lot of people out there, they're going to be married to the idea that if you're going to have a defensive shotgun, it's got to be 12-gauge and you got to use double-aught buck. Well, there's a lot of choices out there, and I hope people will reconsider that because a 20 gauge has a lot of opportunities that a 12 gauge does not. First of all, it's very lightweight, which means it's going to swing on the target faster. Also, if you're going to be carrying this around in training all day long, it's going to be lighter. You're not going to get the same sense of fatigue. It's also going to have about 20% less recoil, which means you're not going to be comparing bruises with your buddies at the end of the day. Now, the 20 gauge is something that's been favored by bird hunters for many years for the same reasons. You can bring down just as many birds, you can do it without getting bruised up, and at the end of the day, it's going to be lighter to carry around. And as long as you're a decent shot, it's going to have no real difference. Now, the real advantage of a 12 gauge comes from the density of pattern at distance. That's great if you're going to be hunting. If we're talking about a defensive shotgun at 20 to 30 yards, it's not going to make much difference. Now, a word about, the power. You're going to find that the velocity of the pellets is going to be the same, whether we're talking about a 12 gauge or a 20 gauge. They're going to be moving at the same speed. Now, a 20 gauge is only going to have a few pellets less. So what you're giving up is a slightly less of a payload rather than velocity or power. So if you're a decent shot, whether it's birds or bad guys, they're not going to know the difference. So the 20 has a lot of pluses that are really going for it. Now, we use 20 gauges when we're training people. And that's because less recoil, in terms of conditioning, it's something a little more friendly to shoot without the bruising or the bang. So because of that, it's a good place to start. Now, another good feature is the fact that shooting 20 gauges, you're not going to have the long recovery time between shots, meaning you're going to be able to stay on target easier and deliver shots much quicker following up on the first round. So this has a lot of great features which are worth checking out. Now, one of them is what we call ghost ring sights, meaning all you do is you put your target right in the center of that circle, and what you see is what you get. Very instinctive, very intuitive, very easy to use. The Mossberg also comes with a Picatinny rail, meaning you can add other types of accessories such as a red dot. Very, very popular. Now, we've made some additions to this. For those of you that are paying attention, you know that I like Cerakote, and this was done by our good friends down here at Liquid Dreams Hydrographics, and they did it up in my favorite color known as Troy Coyote. Now, we've also made some additions to it. We have a pouch for holding extra rounds. This comes from a company called Tigress One, but there are many different pouches just like this commercially available. We've also added, up here you can see, a magazine extension, so you can add an extra couple rounds so that you can have better capacity. Now, in order to load one of these, you actually load it from underneath. You push the rounds individually up into the tube magazine, and you might be able to see the orange follower. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be pushing individual rounds up through here, and hear a little click to make sure it's completely engaged. And to get this going, what you're going to do is you're going to be pulling this operating rod or this charging handle all the way to the rear and then letting it slam forward. However, you're also going to have, this is going to lock to the rear on the last round when it's empty. We've also added extra sling loops so that you can carry this on a 2-point sling. Makes it much easier if you're going to be training, especially doing transitions with a pistol. So that's real nice to have. The Mossberg also comes with a vertical rubberized grip. That gives you 3 points of contact when you're firing this. So the more points of contact, the less recoil you're going to feel. One of the beauties of having a pistol grip is it also gives you more control in retention. If you're shooting this from the hip, it would be very hard for someone to pull this away from you because of the geometry of the vertical grip. So that's another big plus. Anyway, it's easy to fire, it's fun to shoot, and stick around with us because in a few minutes we'll be putting some rounds through it so you can see just how this thing operates. All right, we're going to load this up in just a second, but first I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the ammo. Now, when we're talking about shotguns, this is referred to as a shell. And when we're talking about what the semi-autos like best, you're going to find that they like an ammunition that we refer to as high base. This brass part being the base. Now, the high base shell is going to hold more gunpowder, so a high base shell is going to have a little bit more punch than, say, what we would call a low base shell. So you're also going to notice that we're shooting brass, and that's very important because if you use other metals like aluminum, you're not going to have the same smooth extraction, and a lot of that has to do with the metallurgy. Now, when the brass goes into the chamber and it goes off, it's going to expand and then it's going to contract, and the extractor is going to pull it out nice and clean. If you're using an aluminum-based shell, the aluminum is going to expand but not contract, which means it's going to have to get ripped out of the chamber, and it's not going to like that. So one of the things you're going to want to do if you get a gun like this is buy high base shells with a brass base. Now, the ones that I like and the ones that I've found work really well come from a company called Estate. And these are the heavy game loads. Now, you can get into the Estate heavy game loads for about $8 a box. Estate also makes some called high base loads, which run just about double. However, you don't need to go to that extreme of buying a $16 box if you can buy an $8 box that will do the same amount of performance. So, 20 gauge, 2 3/4, 1 ounce of shot, and that's number 8 shot. Now, talking about the defense rounds, for what you would also want if you're going to be using this as a defense gun, you're also going to be looking for high base. And companies like Remington actually sell defense ammunition in 5-packs. And you can get these in different sizes, double-aught being the most familiar. I prefer to use a number 4 shot. Anyway, let me show you how this loads up. We'll have some fun with it. You want to make sure when you load this, it goes into the loading gate, and with your thumb, push it all the way in until you feel it click. Make sure you get your thumb behind it so it's got a solid purchase, and you push it all the way in until you feel it seat into the magazine. To get the gun to run, pull the charging handle all the way to the rear and let it slam forward, and then it's ready to go. All right. There you go. We're empty, we're clear, we're safe. That was a blast. Well, that obviously got the job done. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Thorell from Firearms Education Training. On behalf of Shoot of the Series, y'all take care.